Here today. Now our first speaker, his name is Roy Fletcher. He's the Director of Partner and Client Development at Mindset Management. He's also in South Africa at the moment where they've been having some wild weather. So Roy, if you're online, you can turn on your camera and mute your microphone and I'll give you the virtual floor.
Thanks, Christian. Yeah, sunny South Africa, but very little power at this moment. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to share my screen. Excellent. Thank you and welcome to everyone. I'm going to be talking about enabling businesses to respond effectively to talent challenges in evolving industries. So just to cover the agenda, I'll just look at some of the cost drivers in the tech talent space, some direct and indirect, and look at some of the current events that may influence your perception of the problem statement, which is the cost explosion, talent retention, churn rates, and so on. And then what can we do inside our organizations to help, which is a little bit of good practice with talent. And then what are some of the opportunities that these shifts in the new way of work presents? So perhaps global workforce talent strategies is the way to go. And then I'll finish off with a so what now? What can you action immediately to begin the journey? So let's dive right in. So what's the cost explosion made up of and what can we control? I mean, there's tremendous pressure for organizations to digitize in order to leverage the benefits of digital business models. And because of the increasing demand, recruiters may be on the back foot when negotiating. And I can imagine there's potentially an element of desperation there, which may not go too well, but that's an opinion. In the war for talent, the comments have been, well, this is the cost of doing business regarding the increased costs and inflated expenses. And it's creating a perfect storm. So with the speed required in selecting and making candidates an offer may lead to misfits from a culture perspective. And meanwhile, the highly mobile workforce is also costing project delivery. And the time it takes to get talent on board and productive presents a massive opportunity cost for the organization. Another thing to consider is regarding team culture. When teams change, they step back into the stages we know as storming, forming, norming, and performing. And this regular shift in team dynamics is certainly a disruptor and an enemy of productivity. So we can't control the external forces. But what can we do to be more proactive in creating organizations that attracts, retains, and develops the right talent? So what are some of the current events? This is a short video taken from AI HR in the Netherlands, and this is their HR hot topics conversation. Dr. Dieter Veldsman is actually one of our founding partners and shareholder, and he did his PhD on our methodology and survey models. I've just taken a small edit, but you can find this on the YouTube channel. The content is great, so please do subscribe.
Is Dieter Veldsman. Let's dive right in. Our main story for today is what the wave of tech layoffs tell us about the economy. It's from CNN Business and it is analyzing the different layoffs that we've seen at Twitter, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon and other companies. They are laying employees off at a massive scale. We've all seen Twitter and Elon who fired essentially half of the population by overwork email, essentially saying, you know, you're from today locked out of your account, and if you get the login, then you can stay at the company. You don't have to come to the office unless you hear that we retain you. That to me feels like the world is upside down, Dieter.
Agree. I think there's way too much in terms of from a process point of view that's gone wrong within how we have approached the tech layoffs. I think there is a reality, you know, in terms of the digital boom being over, companies have to right size. They're also looking at inflation, a possible recession. So there will be difficult conversations that we do need to have. What I worry about is that we've been very inhumane in some of our approaches in terms of how companies have approached this. And I think there's a different way that you can look at this.
So with the large numbers of tech talent being jettisoned back into the market, how will this affect the way that you see the talent challenges? And how would you adjust your talent strategy going forward? I mean, I read a few weeks back, the count in tech was over 140,000. And in response, sites like layoffs.fyi and other sites like it have put up spreadsheets with the layoffs at different companies in different regions. So you can use this as an indicator for the availability of talent in various regions, and collaborating with partners like Amplifyre, as an example, could facilitate the vetting process and alleviate some of the pressures. So more haste is less speed. So what if we remove some of the steps that you as business owners have to take when sourcing talent through collaboration, that it could allow you the space to think and act more deliberately at a reasonable pace by leveraging new ways to drive results through collaboration. So I read an article in Fortune by Julie Elberfield, and she's got great experience putting together tech teams. And she urged C-suites to consider some things regarding talent, whether they are asking their teams, how narrow is the talent profile of who you're willing to hire? Where are you sourcing talent? Have your teams looked at non-degree pathways to source skilled workers? And what investments are they making in reskilling, upskilling, and encouraging a growth mindset amongst existing employees? And Julie makes an argument to source talent from places such as Opportunity at Work, with over 70 million work-ready candidates. They've got a Shining, Rising, and Forming Stars program. And even organizations such as IBM, Accenture, and Bitwise are taking a similar approach to sourcing and developing talent. Another thing to consider is if our approach to talent is short range. So what I mean by this is, are we looking for talent that requires no development to produce value in the shortest time possible? So two approaches to think about is looking at your current talent pool and the direction and future of your organization, and then developing them over time to meet those future needs. This creates a positive talent movement within the business and also encourages retention. And the second part is to invest in future potential of talent, so that when you're sourcing them, it's not only retaining them, but you develop them and increase their value as an asset to a company. So considering the global nature of work these days, how could the global talent strategy be leveraged to drive more diversity in your teams? And we all know that diversity is one of the key drivers to innovation. So what can we start to do inside of our organizations to help? What does talent really want? Gartner went out and published a CHRO guide on reinventing your employee value proposition in a post-pandemic world. And they did a study and found that some of the indicators of current EVPs are on shaky ground. And these indicators are engagement, which drives both performance and retention outcomes, has remained relatively flat since 2016. Attraction, only 29% of functional leaders report that all talent they need to meet current performance requirements. This challenge is especially pronounced in the most competitive labor markets, such as IT and data science roles. Intent to stay is another one. Only 23% of HR leaders believe that most employees will continue working in their current organization after the pandemic ends. And then lastly, EVP satisfaction. Only 31% of HR leaders think that their employees are satisfied with the EVP, and a staggering 65% of candidates report that they've actually discontinued a hiring process due to an unattractive employee value proposition. So Gartner went on and suggests there's a better way, and they called it the human deal. This is made up of creating deeper connections, so helping employees to strengthen their families and community connections and not just working connections. And radical flexibility, so give employees flexibility over where, how much, and with whom they work. Personal growth, which is I feel valued. which provides employees with opportunities to grow as people and not just as professionals. Holistic well-being. Don't just provide employees with holistic well-being offerings. Make sure that they use them. And lastly, but certainly not least, is a shared purpose I feel invested in. So take action on societal and cultural issues. Don't just make statements about purpose. So what will this do? So if you invest in an employee value proposition that's a little bit more human-centric, the benefits of it is increased number of net promoters. So at 28%, they've seen a 28% increase in employees who are highly likely to recommend the organization by delivering deeper connections. It drives performance. So they've seen an 18% increase in high performers by delivering radical flexibility, increase intent to stay. So there's a 6% increase in intent to stay by delivering personal growth, maximizing employee total wellness. There's been a 7% increase in employees' physical, financial, mental wellness by delivering holistic well-being, and increased employee loyalty. So they saw a 9% increase in employees who are likely to accept a job again by delivering shared purpose. Now, approaching this holistically will drive the biggest impact. So any activity in an organization should be informed by organizational strategy and cascaded into the various functions and levels. And we all know that connecting to purpose is a powerful thing. Simon Sinek uses the words, find your why, and he's contributed to this approach and its impact in many ways. But Deloitte did the research and put together a great infographic outlining the high-level impact and differentiation of purpose-driven strategies. So you can see brand reputation goes up, sales and innovation goes up, capital access and market valuation goes up. There's reduced risk and brand trust. But what's important is, from a talent perspective, there's operational efficiencies. So there's logistics and supply chain costs go down. There's improvements in performance. There's a reduction in safety incidences. There's a reduction in employee turnover. And there's an increase in profitability. So having a purpose-driven strategy has bottom line impact. And what's more is that 78% of people indicated that they prefer to work for a purpose-driven company. And about 50% of workers and 75% of millennial workers say that they would take a pay cut to work with an environmentally responsible company. So just by linking to purpose in your employee value proposition and for your strategy, there are bottom line impacts. So with a global talent strategy, you could create an asynchronous hybrid working environment to cater for global talent. GitHub's wrote extensively on this. You could also, considering Gartner's human deal, develop a more human-centric EVP. So what does talent really want? And the studies show that money is not the strongest driver. You could also implement a revolving door policy. So when talent leaves, say you're welcome to come back with what you've learned. And talent, in some instances, were treated very poorly and will select companies where the culture presents more psychological safety. Companies also exist to solve a problem, and profits are the result. So what is that purpose? And how could you clearly communicate that to your desired talent pool? And then looking at the context we find ourselves in, how could you reframe your ideas around talent? Because people are assets that increase in value as you develop them through your organization. And then lastly, in what way can you leverage collaboration partners to drive better results? So just to summarize quickly and things to ponder, The non-tangible costs and impact to a business are within team dynamics, culture, and opportunity costs. So how will this influence your approach going forward? And in light of the recent layoffs, what things will talent be wary of when considering your company as an employer? And could your strategy, your talent strategy and talent profile be too restrictive? So how could smart collaboration allow for some slack in the process to allow for wiser talent choices? And then purpose-driven organizations win. So how will you change your communication to be clearer and effectively entice the right talent to join you? So here's the so what now? What things can you act on immediately? You can assess whether the talent, where your talent is a flight risk through diagnostic engagement surveys. You can assess the well-being of your organization, especially if you're in a hybrid new way of working arrangement. You can also partner more closely with HR and OD to develop and adjust your employee value proposition and look for ways to communicate that effectively into the market. And then leverage smart collaboration partners to drive results. Mindset works in the measurement of a whole lot of these things. So partnering with a measuring company is a good idea. Well, I think that's my time, and thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more, my email is on the slide and the website is on the slide. Just a parting thoughts. All of our clients that have adopted the Mindset Engage EX platform have seen a steady increase on engagement and well-being year on year since adopting the platform. Thank you very much.